Hi there everybody at YouTube, and I am Michael Buckoff, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-Step System to Pass a TOEFL IBT, your online TOEFL course. So let's get started today. I'm going to look at a very specific area in language use, particularly as it relates to grammar, and it's called understanding restrictive and non-restrictive relative clauses. Now, some of you at YouTube may be watching, well, so what? Why would I even want to know anything about that, right? So let's take a look at some examples and let's see if we can figure out, see if I can illustrate the importance of understanding this type of grammar. Okay, so let's say we go here, so let me make this a little bit smaller. So let's go down here, right? I'm going to put this right. I'll just be in the corner here. So now let's bring up screen capture. Here we go right here. All right, so let's take a look at two examples here. I'll do this one later on. Let's just kind of look at one thing at a time. First of all, when I use the word relative clause, I refer to what's called an adjective clause. Okay, so let's take a look at two examples here. We have sentence number 1, we have sentence number 2, right? We're just trying to see how this relates, right? Okay, now. Basically, with restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, we have to understand either we do not use or we use commas to set these elements apart from the rest of the sentence, right? That's kind of what you want to think about here, right? Okay, so let's talk about it a little bit more detail here. So let's go beginning here. Remember that the purpose of this video, what I'm trying to do here is to help you improve your language use, your grammar, as it relates to the independent writing task. If you can improve your grammar, you have better control of your grammar, particularly you understand advanced grammar a little bit better, that's going to be a good thing. Okay, so we have restrictive. We can just call them elements too if we want. Restrictive element means it might be a clause, it could be a phrase. We have non-restrictive, maybe elements. And for the sake of this particular video, for this live stream, I'll be focusing around, I'll be using adjective clauses as examples. So a restrictive element means that the phrase or clause is essential to what it modifies. We'll say, in fact, the idea cannot be taken out of the sentence without a loss of meaning. Right? If we gave a definition of it, I might say that. You guys see what I'm saying there? That would be a way of identifying what a restrictive element is, right? So let's keep going here. Again, the restrictive element. The phrase or clause is essential to what it modifies. In fact, the idea cannot be taken out of the sentence without a loss of meaning. Now, if we contrast that With a non-restrictive element, I'm going to copy this, I'm going to make a few changes so we can see how it's different. Then the main thing is we want to see by the examples, we want to see through the examples how this works in our sentences and writing, and then why we care, of course, right? So a non-restrictive element, the phrase or clause is not essential to what it modifies. In fact, the idea, it can be taken out of the sentence without a loss of meaning. Now, with restrictive elements, writers use commas to set these elements. No, writers do not use commas to set these ideas apart from the rest of the sentence. That's what you want to remember. Let's go over here. Now remember that even native speakers, whether you're a native or non-native speaker, you may not understand what I'm teaching you here. So this is something important for your writing, right? Whether it's TOEFL writing, whether it's academic writing, whether it's sending a letter, an important email to a friend, or you're doing a resume, you want to make sure you understand this. This is important. So with non-restrictive elements, writers, they use commas, so you want to make sure you understand this. You have to, first of all, you have to be able to identify a restrictive or non-restrictive element. Once you've made that identification, then you can figure out whether or not you need commas, right? Okay, so let's look at the definitions one more time. Keep it really simple. Now, if you guys have any questions, if you want to post a sample sentence in the comments, in the chat, you can do that. And I will tell you whether or not you're writing the sentence with correct punctuation. Alright, so again, restrictive element. The phrase or clause is essential to what it modifies. In fact, the idea cannot be taken out of the sentence without a loss of meaning. Writers do not use commas to set these ideas apart from the rest of the sentence. Non-restrictive element. The phrase or clause is not essential to what it modifies. In fact, the idea can be taken out of the sentence without a loss of meaning. Writers use commas to set these ideas apart from the rest of the sentence. You got that? Now, let's compare these examples. This is what we want to do next. And I'll try to give you some other examples here in a minute too. Okay, now, in the first sentence, actually let me ask you this. See if you guys, I want you to think about this for a minute. Okay, you guys see this okay? Okay, so here's my question. We have two sentences. The boys who are playing soccer at the park are from Brazil. The boys who are playing soccer at the park are from Brazil. Now my question is, which of these sentences means that all of the boys at the park are from Brazil? And which sentence means some of the boys at the park, not all, are from Brazil? Right? So what I'm showing you here is whether or not you use commas to set the adjective clause apart, whether you use them or don't use them, it changes the meaning of the sentence. That's why understanding restrictive, non-restrictive elements are important. So what do you guys think? And welcome. I think I see here Mohamed. It looks like you left a message or didn't leave a message, but what do you guys think? Which one means that all of the boys are from Brazil? Which one means some of them are from Brazil? Right? So let's go back to the sentence. So in this case, if you don't use commas, it has this meaning. right? So the boys who are playing soccer at the park are from Brazil. It means that at the park there are maybe different groups of boys at the park. There could be some boys who are playing baseball, maybe other boys are running around a track, and other boys who are playing soccer. So by saying the boys who are playing soccer at the park are from Brazil, so if you don't use commas, you're saying that this idea here is necessary to identify the meaning of the word boys, right? So the meaning here is some of the boys at the park are from Brazil. That would be the meaning. Now in the next sentence we're saying that this idea is not very important. In fact, we can take out this non-restrictive element, we can take it out of the sentence and still the meaning is clear. So if we can take it out and the meaning is still clear, then it means this. You guys see what I'm saying? So I don't know if you think about this, but the point is, the reason that you want to understand relative and restrictive and non-restrictive elements is because you can emphasize or de-emphasize certain points to your audience. And whether or not you use commas, as I'm pointing out here, it can change the meaning of the sentence that you're writing. That's kind of what you want to think about right there. Okay, so now let me give you another example. Let's go back to what we have here. So the next sentence is, to kind of illustrate this point, let's take a look at this one right here. In this case, we have Jesse Fish, and we could have said here who is, but I decided to not put who and is, and I'm using what's called an appositive. Jesse Fish, a native from New York City, moved to St. Augustine, where he became Florida's first orange baron. Right? So in this case, we have two non-restrictive elements. We have two specific non-restrictive elements here. So we have Jesse Fish. Notice how specific Jesse Fish is. That's the name, right? The name of the person. And then I put a comma after this because a native from New York City, this information is not necessary to identify Jesse Fish because we already have a very specific name here. Then we say moved to St. Augustine, comma, where he became Florida's first orange baron. Again, I put a comma after St. Augustine because St. Augustine is the specific name of a city. So the adjective clause which comes after it is not necessary to identify it. So in both cases, we have a non-restrictive appositive right after the subject. We have a non-restrictive relative clause or adjective clause directly after the word St. Augustine. So in conclusion to this particular video, I want to show you how we can take this idea and let's turn it into a restrictive element where we would not use commas. Right? So let's take the idea here and let's go here, and I might say the graduate student who is a native from New York City moved to another city where he became Florida's first orange baron. In this case, I have no commas in the sentence. Now remember, when I'm reading the sentence, I'm pausing, right? Some people think, well, if I pause when I'm reading, I'm using a comma. Let's read it. The graduate student, who is a native from New York City, moved to another city where he became Florida's first Orange Baron. So I can certainly pause after certain ideas in this sentence, but the pauses don't indicate necessarily that I need a comma. So what I did in this particular part of my video here, I gave you an example of a non-restrictive element here, which is a native from New York City, is non-restrictive in meaning because it's not necessary to identify Jesse Fish. We know who Jesse Fish is without this additional information. Then once we say move to St. Augustine, again, St. Augustine is the name of the city. So where he became Florida's first Orange Baron, again, this is additional information that's not essential to the meaning of St. Augustine. So then in the beginning, if we look at the definition, with restrictive elements, writers do not need to use commas to set these ideas apart from the rest of the sentence. With non-restrictive elements, writers use commas to set these ideas apart from the rest of the sentence. And that is how restrictive and non-restrictive elements work. For more information, you can go to my website if you want to learn more about grammar, if you want to improve your writing and your speaking. If you want a high TOEFL score, you can certainly go to my online TOEFL course by going to onlinetoeflcourse.com.